Okay, looks like some of you are starting to get on. In a world where everything is an adventure, for the last 10 minutes, we've been running around my house trying to get internet connection. Actually, my husband has been trying to run around my house trying to get internet connection. But what we did was I connected to the um, mobile hotspot on my phone. So hopefully that's going to work. That was Mike's idea, last ditch effort, and it looks like we're good. So I'll be speaking this morning about anxiety, and I guess I thought it would be a good idea to get myself anxious before I begin this morning. So there we go. I see a lot of people jumping on. Kathleen says, "Welcome to my world." Yes, well, my heart is racing and my breathing is elevated and I have sweaty palms. So I'll be talking about anxiety and I'm well prepared for that this morning. So okay, let's get started. Good morning, Facebook world. Good morning, friends and community. This is Karen. I'm back with you again. And last week I neglected to give this to you. I have an email address at First Reformed Church. If you would like to contact me with questions or concerns, or if you need anything, please feel free to email me. My email address through the church is karen@frc-pp.org. So again, it's karen@frc-pp.org, and that is how you can reach out to me. If I can connect you to any resources or answer any questions for you, I am more than happy to do that. So today we're going to continue our conversation about mental health topics. I do have my coffee here, which you may absolutely see me sipping as I try to get myself back into my the correct headspace here. I also want to share with you that a lot of the information that I'm going to be talking about comes through NAMI. Many of you have heard of that. It's just an acronym, NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Health. Okay. And today we're going to be talking specifically about anxiety, because anxiety is the most prevalent form of mental illness, which has weird connotations, but anxiety is a very prevalent mental health issue with many people. I want to tell you first is that there's not a human being alive that doesn't have anxiety. All at some point or another, we're all anxious about something. Okay. And during these times, this for me personally, this last week has been a time of a lot of mental disconnect, mental discomfort, trying to process so many things, trying to listen, and that has produced some anxiety for me. So I share that with you because anxiety is, we say this about a lot of things in the mental health world, but a perfectly normal reaction to very abnormal circumstances. So anxiety is a perfectly normal reaction to very abnormal circumstances. So let's just get that out there. We all have anxiety at one time or another. There's no doubt about it. Okay. However, and this is what we're going to focus on this morning, is trying to work with that level of anxiety so that it does not come to the point where it's incapacitating or debilitating, which it can be. And for just over 19% of the adults in the United States, these are adults, they have what we call a diagnosed anxiety disorder. And anytime you have a disorder, it impacts your life. 7% of youth, children and young adults, have diagnosed anxiety disorders. They all have anxiety, but a little more than 7% of children have anxiety disorders. Let's talk about the symptoms of anxiety very quickly. Most of you are very aware of them. The emotional symptoms of anxiety are feelings of apprehension or dread. Can anybody relate to that? Being tense or jumpy. I find that my startle reflex right now, like if I hear a sudden noise, I react more than I would have 12 weeks ago. Restlessness, irritability. Can anybody relate to being irritable? And anticipating the worst, that the worst is going to happen. Those are some of the emotional symptoms of anxiety. Physical symptoms can be, not limited to, but can be a pounding heart and a shortness of breath, sweating, actually shaking or tremors, extreme fatigue, and yet inability to sleep, and also nausea. If you've ever had a full blown panic attack, they're often mistaken for onset of heart attacks. Talk to people who work in the emergency rooms at our hospitals, and they'll tell you how many people come in presenting thinking that they're having a heart attack when indeed they're having an anxiety attack. When it's to that level, it can be incapacitating. So, again, what we're here today to talk about is how resetting our mental framework when we feel anxious so that we can diffuse the more serious symptoms of an actual anxiety attack. Anxiety disorders are very difficult to deal with. They can keep people out of the workforce. They can keep people away from loved ones, away from social situations. An anxiety disorder, anytime you have a disorder, it's something that impacts your normal life function, okay? So generalized anxiety disorders is an intense fear, a chronic and exaggerated worry about your everyday life. Chronic means it's impacting your ability to function. Social anxiety can be that intense fear about being around others, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of not knowing what to say. And a panic disorder is can be frightening to people. That is a disorder where you have sudden onset of severe anxiety attacks. They strike without warning, and those are the kind that sometimes take people to hospitals because they really think they're having a heart attack. So I want to tell you that anxiety frequently confuses medical diagnoses. Talk to any doctors or nurses that you know. And there's a lot of times when people present in doctor's offices with a general, I'm not feeling well, it's hard for me to put my finger on what's wrong. A lot of that can be fueled and impact. Treatments for anxiety disorders are a little bit more specific, but treatments for anxiety in general vary. It depends on the severity of your anxiety. It can be warrant medication to just even out so you're on a more even keel without feeling anxious all the time. But here's what I'm here to say today. The title of this, it says, let's talk about mental health. No good mental health treatment will be recommended to you without a talk therapy component. It is essential that we find a trusted person and share our anxiety and our feelings with them. It's essential. Bottled up anxiety is going to find a way out. It's best if it finds its way out through talking. Bottled up anxiety can lead to those anxiety attacks. And I'm getting a warning on here. I'm not sure if you guys, if everything is still okay. Somebody let me know. Somebody's having connection issues. Well, anyway, I'm going to continue, but I'm guessing that I'm cutting in and out, but I'm going to continue. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about what anxiety does in youth and young adults, and I'm going to tell you two quick stories. All right, I'm seeing some where everything is okay. All right. Last week, I was down. Mike and I were down with our grandchildren. They entered our COVID bubble about in the middle of May, and what a blessing that has been. I'll tell you, that has been incredible. But last week, we were trying to do some things. We were trying to help our 7-year-old grandchildren run their field day. You know, what's field day to a kid? They're with all their friends and they're out there playing games. Well, now it was their grandma and grandpa and them trying to run some activities. And I noticed that my grandson was just not feeling himself, and he went to sit in what he calls his calm down chair. Let me tell you what, that's genius. I think we all need a calm down chair. So today, designate a chair in your house as your calm down chair. But what a great way for my daughter and son-in-law to find a safe place for their children to diffuse. So I started to talk with my grandson. His name is Memo, and I just said, how you doing, buddy? How you feeling about all this? And he said, I'm confused, Nani. He calls me Nani. I'm confused. This is all confusing to me. And he said, what was on his mind that day was, I was supposed to have a play date with Nicholas. We were supposed to get together and play with Legos. That's what we were going to do. And then the virus came and we never had our play date. And at that moment, there are a lot of things that I could have said. I could have reminded him that how blessed he is to be in a safe environment, to be surrounded by people that love him. He doesn't suffer from food insecurity, but that doesn't matter when you're 7 years old. What he was saying to me in his own little way with the words that he has is everything feels out of control. So I sat down, got eye level with him, and I said, you know what, Memo, that's really rough. I know you must miss Nicholas terribly, and I know how much you were looking forward to playing Legos with him. And all I can tell you is you're going to be able to play with him again, but I don't know when, honey, and I know that's hard. So I tried to hear him and meet him where he was. I didn't tell him, don't feel that way. You're so lucky, you're safe. Try to meet those children where they are. And then on Monday, I had an experience of being at Newton High School, listening, being able to participate in a drive-by for the senior class, for the graduating seniors. I retired from Newton High School on December 1, but I wanted to bid the senior class farewell. So the teachers encircled the high school. It's one of those kinds of facilities where you can encircle the high school, and the seniors with a parent. They were not allowed to drive themselves because of distracted driving, and you'll understand more why in a moment. They drove by all of their teachers. The teachers had their cars decorated and horns honking and messages of support and all of that kind of stuff. And yet, what I saw in those teenage faces, those young adult faces, was anguish and sorrow and tears, sobbing young adults, male and female, sobbing, crying parents. And one very astute senior had written on her car or her parents' car, thank you, Newton High School staff. I'll remember you all in therapy. How about that? That kid already knows that this has changed her life and may put her in a position where she's going to need to find a way to deal with the reality that she has experienced. So when you're dealing with children and young adults, my advice to you is this: listen to them. Do not spend any time telling them. You heard Kathleen talking about listen to each other yesterday. Listen to children, however young they are. Ask them leading questions, not the how are you question, because we all have an answer. How are you? Fine. Well, none of us are fine, but that is what we say. Ask leading questions. And don't avoid those difficult conversations. Whenever you can, if you get the sense that they need you, stop what you're doing and engage them. That will speak volumes to them just by you stopping what you're doing and sitting down with them. Tell them, acknowledge that we don't have the answers and that we ourselves wish we did have the answers, but we just don't. Monitor their TV and internet connections, please, the time that they're spending on the internet. How hard is it for us with our coping mechanisms to deal with what we're all taking in? Well, that's exponentially, goes up exponentially for youth and young adults. So monitor what they're doing. Be sensitive to their responses. If they respond in ways that concern you, reach out for help. Contact someone, please. There is no shame Let's lift the veil. I love that analogy that Kathleen used on Sunday. Lift the veil. Let's also lift the veil on mental health stigma, because it just does not need to exist. And be mindful of yourself, because you're trying to monitor your own anxiety and the anxiety of the people around you. Be mindful of yourself. It's okay to look at your children, your spouse, your partner, and say, sometimes I feel really anxious too. Let's talk about it. I would love to share with you some techniques for diffusing anxiety that are actually fun. They can be done with people of all ages, including children, and they involve our senses. So none of them will surprise you. If you want to jot them down, get a pencil. You're going to probably be able to remember them even if you don't have a pencil. So when you notice that you are feeling anxious, if your respiration gets shallow, your heart starts to beat fast, you get that a little bit of a disorientated feeling in your mind, you're feeling anxious, do these things. Stop everything that you're doing and look around your space. If you're outdoors, pick a color. If you're outdoors, don't pick green. But if you're indoors, let's say pick color, I'm going to say yellow. And start looking around your surroundings and find 5 yellow things. Just name them, say them out loud. Find your 5, whatever color you choose, things. Then get up and move and find 5 things that have a different texture when you touch them. Something that's soft, something that's hard, hot, cold, sharp. I'll just tell you here, what are we trying to do? We're trying to refocus our brain away from anxiety and onto things that we have control over things that we can readily find. What 5 things can I hear? If you're outside, especially if you're in stillness, there's that word again, finding stillness. Do you hear different birds? Can you hear crickets? Do you hear leaves blowing? Do you hear water running? In the house, do you hear the refrigerator running? What do you hear? 5 things that you hear. And then here's my favorite. The sense of smell can change the direction that our minds are going. Walk into a house where there's chocolate chip cookies baking. What's the first thing you're going to do? Stop, inhale, and say, that smells amazing. Find 5 different things that have strong smells. If you're an oil person, if you diffuse oils and you've got them around, get out a citrus scented oil. I'm diffusing tangerine all the time now because it's a bright smelling, just a bright smell to me. Squeeze a lemon, taste that lemon. Stick your hand in salt, taste that salt. 5 different tastes. So again, when you do that, reevaluate your mental status, reevaluate your breathing. But what you're trying to do is set space between your anxiety and your mental state. If it's not working great, do it again. It's fun to do with kids. It really is, because it becomes like a game to them and it refocuses them. Okay, there's so much information here. I feel like I'm probably talking too fast. I hope that at least some of this is making sense to you. So I want to bring it back to scripture, because for me in anxiety, scripture is a place to ground myself and root myself. So today I'm going to be closing with this reading from the book of Philippians. And it is Philippians chapter 4, beginning reading in verse 4. Listen to these words these are the words of Jesus, by the way. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, I'm sorry, this is a letter written to the people, the Philippians, talking about Jesus Christ. These are not the words of Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, the writer says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me, the writer of this letter, or seen in me, again, the writer of the letter, put that into practice, and the peace of God will be with you. So he tells us, be anxious for nothing. Put your prayers and your petitions to God, and remember the things that Jesus has said to us and taught us. And that peace can help us to diffuse anxiety. I know that to be true, but I know it's not always easy. Anxiety is real, anxiety is present. Again, it is a perfectly normal reaction to very abnormal situations like what we're experiencing right now. So please practice. If I can say anything to you every week, it's going to be that. This isn't just about practicing and building your physical strength. It's practicing techniques that will build good mental health resilience. I love that word, resilience. So God bless you. Take those words into your day today. I'm thinking about all of you. I know I have that sign from church. We're all in this together. We're all doing the very best that we can. And what you are doing every day is good enough. So good luck, and I'll see you again next week.